and welcome to this webcast on FHI 360 Strategic Behavioral Communication or SBC, which will serve as an overview of SBC. Join us while we explore the strategic behavioral communication process and discuss the definition, brand attributes and planning tools in detail. We will be looking at the ASTA project to illustrate different points throughout this webcast. It would serve as a refresher to those SBC officers of FHI 360 that have already attended this training. Let's begin with IEC, Information, Education and Communication. A lot of people are still using this term even though it's pretty outdated in our work. Why do you suppose that is? Another very well-known term is KAP, Knowledge, Attitudes and Practices. Most communication strategies and materials aim at increasing knowledge instead of looking at the attitudes and practices. Does this serve the purpose? We learned a long time ago that information alone does not change behavior. Just look at the number of people that know that smoking is bad for their health and still continue to smoke. There is clearly a gap between what we know and what we do. Now let's look at Strategic Behavior Communication or SBC. We will be using the term SBC from now on. FHI 360 defines SBC as the process of influencing human behavior using a combination of marketing principles and behavioral and social sciences. When many people think of marketing, they think of another word that starts with the letter M. What do you suppose that word is? Perhaps money comes to mind, but how about another one? Manipulation. The American Marketing Association defines marketing as the process of creating, communicating, delivering and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners and society at large. Doesn't sound too manipulative. You may have also heard about social marketing. Social marketing provides the foundation for SBC. Although in international development circles, there is a kind of misperception that social marketing simply refers to marketing subsidized products such as, say, bed nets or condoms. The truth is that both social marketing and SBC use marketing principles to promote behaviors and services as well as products. Well beyond IEC, social marketing and SBC ask very fundamental questions as is seen in this model. For example, what is the problem? Who must act to resolve it? What must be done? Where and why? And most importantly, how will we promote this action? These questions are answered as you design your SBC plan or strategy and represent the 4 marketing principles in action. Let's start with the consumer focus, answering the question, whose behavior do you want to impact? Here's a model called the Consumer-Based Health Communication or CHC model. It shows us how epidemiology and clinical research have come together with consumer research and translated into a communication strategy in order to impact behavior. If we agree that behavior change is voluntary and that we cannot force anyone to change their behavior, then we also realize that it is important for people to participate in their own change. We must also make sure that the behaviors we are promoting are relevant and in tune with the current beliefs. In all of our SBC plans, we must first identify who those people are. We should be thinking about primary audiences as well as secondary audiences, also known as consumers and sometimes known as beneficiaries. Secondary audience by no means denotes that they are any less important. In fact, these are the influencers. So you might want to begin by targeting them first and recruiting them as messengers. Imagine promoting health services and not engaging the health promoters. You should be able to look or listen to any piece of communication and determine immediately who the audience is. If not, chances are it's information driven and it's not consumer or audience driven. Take a look at these posters from a condom manufacturer. They have some object, possibly bacteria, with a gift tag attached that says something like from Alex to Eric. And the tagline says nobody wants to get HIV. The other says nobody wants to get syphilis. Does anything about these posters reveal who they are targeting? It's important to understand what our audiences value. What are their unmet needs? Not so that we can manipulate them. Remember, behavior change is voluntary. but so that we can figure out how to make healthier choices easier for them to make. The literature points to 3 strategies for impacting behavior. These 3 can be boiled down to regulate, you do X or I'll do Y, or educate, which is do X because of Y, or facilitate, if I do Y, will you do X? Which of these are you currently doing in your job? Chances are most of us are doing a pretty good job at number 2, perhaps even going beyond policy advocacy to address number 1. But what are we actually doing to facilitate healthy behaviors? See if you can finish this sentence. I would be willing to use condoms with all my sexual partners for every sexual act if you... Now think about what behavior you are promoting in your program and finish the same sentence. For example, I would be willing to take the HIV test if... This helps us to think about behavior change interventions as more than just messages and education, but also facilitation. What can we do to facilitate or make this behavior much easier for them? As Bill Smith, social marketing guru, says, the change is often in us, not them. In fact, you are in a position to influence the choices of others, and you may be what Thaler and Sunstein in their book Nudges call a choice architect. This simply means that you have the responsibility to organize the context or the environment in which people make their choices. In ASTA, for example, the PE facilitates a discussion during the SBC sessions with the MAPs to identify self-risk and discusses various options with them to reduce their risk. And then a MAP decides which option suits him or her the best. To understand more about what drives human behavior, we turn to behavioral sciences. They also have their ABCs. A, the antecedent or what triggers behavior. B, the actual behavior. And C, the consequences of that behavior. When we look at behavior through this lens, we see how challenging it is to promote prevention. And because there is no tangible or immediate outcomes, and it's more about what won't happen, we often need to build in rewards and positive reinforcement. Behavioral change theories inform us that in order to impact behavior, people must perceive themselves to be at risk. This doesn't mean that we need to scare people, but to increase their own risk perception, which at the very same time making sure they feel confident in their own abilities to avoid the risk. Norms and popular behaviors are the most readily adoptable, so we also do what's in our power to popularize healthy attitudes and behaviors as well as de-glamorize the risky ones. Another principle that SBC borrows from marketing is audience segmentation. Let's just say that if you don't have enough time or budget to target everyone and you have to be accountable for your results, you need to develop a segmentation strategy. Imagine trying to target a population like MAPs in India. Is this one homogeneous group? Do they all live in similar areas or have similar lifestyles or practice sex work in the same way? Are they all at the same level of risk? Probably the answer is no. In the ASTA project, for example, we have male, female and transgender sex workers. And even within the female sex worker typology, we have brothel-based, street-based, home-based and bar girls. So all the audiences are different. The truth is they all are at risk. So the most important question would be, why are they at different levels of risk? Some reasons, for example, could be alcoholism, emotional dependency on their sexual partners, sorts of sexual practices they are involved in, lack of health-seeking behavior, or even need for money. So how do we develop a segmentation strategy? How do we decide what segment of the population do we target? There are several variables that help us decide. Perhaps we might target those that are the most responsive, or perhaps those who are most willing to change. Or we could even look at those who would benefit the most, who feels most vulnerable, or who is easiest to reach, or also known as low-hanging or ripe fruit. In the ASTA project, for example, we have chosen to segment our population in the following way. The first segment is a MAP who's either new to the profession or new to the area. Whenever the PE finds a new most at-risk population, she registers her with the project and provides her with the minimum SBC package and the minimum outreach package. After 6 months, this new MAP goes to any one of the following categories based on her risk-taking behavior as well as her clinical status. Who avails clinical services for 6 months regularly as well as then consistently uses condoms with both her clients as well as her regular partner and her spouse. She also advocates project services to all the other MAPs in the area and is known as an ASTA ambassador. The next segment is low-risk MAPs. Someone who avails clinical services as well as consistently uses condoms with clients but not with regular partners or the spouse. The third segment is high-risk MAPs or most at-risk MAPs. MAPs in this category occasionally avail clinical services whenever they get signs and symptoms of STIs, and they are not always consistently using condoms with clients or with their partners. They tend to consume alcohol and could be persuaded to have sex without using a condom. The fifth segment is HIV positive MAPs. Stigma and discrimination and community mobilization are cross-cutting and integrated at every single segment. As you can see, each and every segment has its own communication needs, and specially designed communication hooks are extremely necessary. Consumer focus, audience segmentation, and then another key principle we borrow from marketing is the marketing mix or the 4 Ps. 4 Ps stand for product, price, place and promotion. Product refers not only to tangible products like condoms or bed nets, but also to services and behaviors. There is normally a current behavior that is in competition. While creating a product strategy, the questions that we need to answer are: how can we make the product, service or healthy behavior more attractive? And sometimes in our work, we want to make products like tobacco or behavior like gender-based violence less attractive. We also have the opportunity to design new products based on consumer or target audience needs, or we may adapt or modify existing products. For example, in ASTA, we have developed the ASTA condom, which is based on the specific needs of all our different typologies. So, for example, the ASTA condom is pink in color so that female sex workers can use it during menstruation easily. The condom also has extra lubrication, so extra loops are not required for anal sex. The condom is also betel nut or pan flavored for ease in oral use. And lastly, but most importantly, the packaging is like a shampoo sachet, which is really useful in terms of hidden sex workers who need to keep their condoms hidden. We also have the opportunity to make unhealthy products less appealing. For example, there are warning labels that are part of cigarette packaging in India. Pictures that visually depict the unattractive and deadly consequences of smoking. In addition, when we are promoting behaviors, a common product strategy we use is positioning or repositioning, the way that the audience thinks about certain behaviors. If you are in the range of bullets, you need a bulletproof vest. Romantic tobacco? Then there's price. These are the costs associated with adopting a new behavior. Costs, which often serve as obstacles or barriers to behavior change, can be non-monetary as well as monetary. There are sometimes costs to existing or ending a current behavior as well as adopting a new one. And much like in commercial marketing, when promoting healthy behaviors, there is more competition than ever. Here is a list of some of the most common competitors that we face in public health. While talking about price, let's look at the exchange theory, the last of the marketing principles that we will utilize. This recognizes that whenever we promote products, services or behaviors, an exchange takes place. For example, I give you a beer, you give me $1. But not only am I providing you with a beer, in exchange for your $1, you are also getting your thirst quenched, good taste, fun with friends. Just look at any commercial. And of course, an excuse for your poor judgment. Now let's look at an exchange a little closer to home. If you are selling condoms, in addition to providing them free of charge, here's what you might be exchanging for that price along with the condoms. Protection, peace of mind, a sense of control, and maybe even hope for the future. Think about the behavior that you are promoting and try to complete this sentence. I want my audience to see abstinence as popular and more beneficial than, let's see what the competition is. Sex could be a tough sell. When we are looking for benefits that outweigh the costs, we should be looking at immediate and not long-term benefits. We know that wider the gap between action and consequences, the harder the sell. For example, abstaining from sex now and preventing STIs in the future just might not be very convincing. The next P stands for place, which is where the audience performs or thinks about performing the behavior using the product or accesses the services. The question we ask while developing a place strategy is, how can we make this place either more accessible or more attractive? In ASTA, we ensured that the timings of the clinics were as per the MAP's convenience. Additionally, we provided clinical services through 4 different ways. 1. The static clinic, which was open throughout the day and was combined with other project services including events, group meetings, and so on and so forth. The second strategy is satellite clinics, which were fixed day, fixed time clinics and normally located close to where the MAPs either worked or lived. The third is outreach clinics. Now these were absolutely at the location in which the MAPs were working. For example, could be the bars or inside a brothel, or could be exactly in the location where they stayed. So a sex worker or a MAP could have given her residence as a place in which the clinic took place. The fourth would be the ASTA mobile van, which was specifically designed keeping in mind audiovisual privacy, a space where counseling and internal examination could take place. This van went to the locations where sex workers were congregated and provided services in a safe way. Now for the fourth P. Because we do so much work in this area, in fact many people think of behavior change as this P itself. The question that needs answering when we get to the promotion strategy is, how will we promote the offer? That is either the product, the service or the behavior. Most important to remember about promotion is to make sure to engage creative professionals as partners. Always start by drafting a creative brief. Don't go right to materials development, but develop concepts or creative strategies with your creative partners. Identify communication channels and please think beyond these P's: posters, pamphlets and peer educators. In ASTA, we have used the niche marketing approach. The ASTA name or logo, which was designed in collaboration with our MAPs itself, is used on all our DICs or ASTA Kendras and represents a safe place for our MAPs to access STIs and HIV services. So anyone else who passes by and does see this name or this logo, it doesn't mean anything to them, so they pass on by, and therefore this space continues to remain safe. In addition, our peer educators are capacitated and use interactive methods to ensure that their process is not the traditional information giving, but actually a facilitatory kind of give and take process. In summary, here are the questions we need to ask and answer when drafting a marketing mix or 4P strategy. 1. How can we make the product, service or behavior more attractive? 2. How can we minimize costs and maximize rewards? 3. How can we make it more accessible, more convenient, more attractive? 4. Based on all that, how to best promote it. And we can't forget what is considered the fifth P, policy, because it cuts across all the other P's and helps create an enabling environment. Can you describe a policy that influences your program or the behavior that you are promoting? Here are the 9 basic steps in developing a strategic behavioral communication SBC plan. Not mentioned here is engaging stakeholders, as this should be ongoing throughout the entire process. Step number 1, conduct a situational analysis. Step 2, identify, analyze and segment the target audience. Step 3, conduct a formative assessment. Step 4, finalize the SBC plan. Once you have your findings from your formative assessment, you will be prepared to finalize your plan. Step number 5, develop creative concepts and prototype materials with creative partners. Step 6, pre-test concepts and materials. Step number 7, produce materials. Lastly, implement and monitor. Although this is listed as amongst the last step, you should be planning your monitoring and evaluation from the very beginning of your program design. SBC is a framework that helps us package information, increase demand for prevention, treatment and healthy behavior, and design public health programs in a more efficient and integrated way. SBC moves way beyond messages and materials and helps us to ensure access, availability, and quality of services and products. If we change the way we think and design behavioral interventions, SBC can help us strengthen our programs. Prevention really is the last great marketing challenge. Rarely are there immediate results. In fact, prevention well done normally results in nothing happening. So how do we promote preventive behaviors or products like condoms? Will a man forfeit a little pleasure for his partner's approval? Or will he believe that not using a condom is as foolish as carrying a weapon with no other protection? When we promote prevention, we sometimes have to build in rewards like peer approval and sometimes even more tangible awards such as certificates or like the concept of the Astha ambassador. In Astha, we use the Crown SBC material, which I'll show you right here, to give to our Astha ambassadors to kind of congratulate them on all their good behaviors. For example, these pieces kind of come apart and we have pieces of the crown, and at the back you have the good behavior that the MAP has shown because of which she's getting this crown. So this is, for example, use of condoms during every sex act. This would be for regularly getting an HIV test done, and so on and so forth. So think like the target audience. Don't just ask me to use a condom, but give me a good reason. Better yet, show me one that feels good. Sounds like a product strategy to me. Again, think like your target audience. Don't just tell me to get tested, make it easier for me. Remember the consumer focus. Think like the target audience. Help reduce the barriers to taking ART medication for the rest of their life. If we want to move people, we should touch them emotionally as well as intellectually. But we can't touch people's hearts by targeting only their heads. We should think about how to give a disease a voice and a face, and how to use real people as messengers to tell their own stories, share their challenges, and document their successes. If you want to reduce stigma, don't tell me, show me. In closing, let me leave you with this parting thought. Our prime focus in life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. Thank you.